if you had asked me if I was in varsity, or even when I was starting articles, whether I would be in a role like this, I would have said absolutely not a chance. 90% or 80% of students who come from Limpopo, be it Venda, Polokwane, and all those different places, go to Wits and do engineering. Check this whole accounting thing out. You're really good at accounting as well. You enjoy it. You like it. Think about it, and look into institutions that really offer it. And I think you'd really do well in it.
Welcome, bro. Thanks for coming on a Saturday morning. I don't take people Saturday mornings, especially those who are employed full time, for granted. So, welcome to the platform, the podcast, Coffee with Ubuntu. How are you doing?
I'm very good, my brother. Thank you for having me. Yeah, looking forward to the conversation we're going to be having today.
Awesome, bro. So, I've got a tradition now that I started by myself.
Yeah.
I no longer
I think you have to,
I no longer wait till the end to gift.
is it?
To give
Hey, this is pretty cool.
Please enjoy that at your
This
convenience.
No, man.
I thought all my guests should get one of those in the beginning, not at the end.
Oh, yeah.
So
This is.
please enjoy it.
Thank you, my
at your
brother.
convenience. I would have bought two, but
this is-
again, you never told me that you're coming with
With my lady.
significant other.
Yeah, I think we both know that it's probably going to land up with her, but it's fine. Let's pretend that I'll keep it for now.
Awesome, man. Look,
This is, man, I love this.
thanks, man.
Proper
I'm not-
quality as well,
I'm not
brother.
good at merchandising, but I'm learning.
No, you're starting off very well. I'll tell you that for free.
Bro, look, I told you, I think a week and a half ago, what I'm trying to do,
Yeah.
what the platform is. And it's just a bunch of self-starters who can teach the other person on the other side of the table, whether it be about corporate, business, leadership, or life in general, just to have a chat to maybe your younger self when you're in varsity, coming into a professional environment, or perhaps to someone who's there at the moment who just wants to learn. You've got an interesting journey from what I obviously know, and we met 2023 October. That's when
23 October, yeah.
yeah. So, look, bro, you asked me another question during the week to say, like, am I going to prepare that? No, there's no preparations. Like, I don't even prepare for this. I just go off of conversation and energy. But do you wanna tell the viewers what you do? Like, as much as you want to say, as much as you can say, right? Do you wanna tell us what you do, where you come from, etc., etc.?
Happy. So I have had a bit of a weird, unique journey. I suppose it's not entirely unique because many of us have had, our own different journeys as well. But let me maybe give a bit of synopsis. So I was born in Venda, but I'm obviously Pedi, and I was obviously raised initially until I was 7 years old in Joburg, until my father passed on, and then my mom and I relocated to Limpopo, Polokwane, and that's where I stayed with family a lot, and my mom was working quite a bit. And I had my primary school and my high school there. And then I went to study chartered accounting in UCT. And then I ended up working at Investec, did my articles there. And then I'm currently now in a role at Investec, looking at strategy for the private bank, really. If you had asked me if I was in varsity, or even when I was starting articles, whether I would be in a role like this, I would have said absolutely not a chance.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely not a chance.
So what I want to do you want to finish off?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
But that's me in a nutshell.
So what I want to do is I want to trace back that journey from Limpopo Polokwane, and then you go to UCT, and then you finish up at UCT and you join Investec, right? Am I correct? So those are like such different spaces.
Completely.
like completely, right? Like
Yeah.
I'd like us to have a chat about those transitions, because you find a lot of brilliant youngsters who will possibly face the same journey or perhaps the same challenges in the same institutions. Do you want us to tell you like that transition from a Polokwane to a UCT, your experience there, and then from a UCT to Investec, like, and as a graduate in a corporate space, like
Yeah.
your challenges and how you found it and how you're going now. Do you want to narrate that for us, please?
Yeah. I mean, I think let me start maybe with the first one, being the transition from Polokwane to UCT, right? So, as you said, like you're right, like they're worlds apart, right? And having grown up in Polokwane, I did my high school there. I absolutely enjoyed my high school. I did relatively well. I enjoyed math. I enjoyed programming, so I did IT programming in there as well. And when I was there, I thought that actually how my journey would potentially look like would be me going either into politics, because I really love politics. I really like debate. I did a lot of debate back in high school, and to a very and I think to a large extent, I was very much convinced that as a result of my ability to speak, my ability to argue, my enjoyment of those things, I'll probably end up a politician, until I actually got to understand what politics in this country means compared to many other countries, and for example, being the US, which is one that we are a little bit more familiar with. And then I thought, okay, cool, maybe with my programming background and because I love coding, I'll probably end up as a software engineer, and then I'll probably want to go to Stanford, maybe work in Silicon Valley, and then do my thing there. But even that, like, and I enjoyed it, like, and I remember even when I wanted to go into it, a few people in my family as well really knew what coding and programming really is. They knew about apps and things like that, but they didn't really know the fact that you need to build source code, you need to learn a programming language and all those kind of things. And so you went on that particular journey alone. However, I then realized that in the context of South Africa, if I wanted to pursue, and bear in mind, like, this was back in 2013, 2014.
Yeah,
There,
now the real
I was
life
like,
comes, yeah.
now the real life comes. I'm like, yeah, actually, maybe take a step back and let reality sink in, and let's see what actually works out for you. But long story short, I was like, listen, and I remember I spoke to a cousin of mine who's an accountant, and I said, listen, I want to go into business. I really love entrepreneurship and all those kind of things. And I was busy with a handful of projects like back in high school. And I was like, listen, I want to do this. So I potentially go in as a developer. I was not going to go in as a politician. And then he was like, listen, check this whole accounting thing out. You're really good at accounting as well. You enjoy it. You like it. Think about it, and look into institutions that really offer it, and I think you'd really do well in it. I was like, well, you know what, cool, it's fine. Let me check it out. And what I quickly realized is, opportunities such as investment banking, corporate banking, advisory, those kind of things, ended up being options as a result of pursuing a CA. And so I was like, listen, I'll always be able to program. I don't necessarily have to go to like an institution to be able to do that. So I'll just do that on the side. And then politics, I'll always enjoy politics as I consistently follow politics now. I don't necessarily have to go into that as a career. And so long story short, I then applied for CA in UCT and Verts and all these other institutions. But I was convinced that I would want to go to like a UP or like a Verts, right? Because contrary to, I wouldn't say popular belief, but like everyone who, let me not say everyone, but 90% or 80% of students who come from Limpopo, be it Venda, Polokwane, and all those different places, go to Verts and do engineering, right? Everyone. It's like a thing, either engineering, accounting, or they're a doctor. And I hate it falling into that stereotype. I think they do well in it, but I didn't really want to be in that because I also wanted to expand my worldview a little bit. I was interested in a lot of different things, and I wanted to give myself that opportunity to be able to experience so many things. Long story short, I applied to UCT, and I'm like, listen, actually, I think I want to go to UCT. And I get to UCT, and reality hits.
Lekker.
It starts making sense why everyone is going to Wits or UP. Okay? Because it's fucking familiar. And naturally, everyone would want to stay in a place where they're most comfortable.
2.5 hours, 3 hours.
2.5 hour drive. You can go home pretty much every month. When you get to UCT, you're not going to take the bus every month, right? You're probably going to take you're going to take the bus twice a year.
No.
But now that's just the issue around geographies. You haven't yet gotten into, now you have to get into cultural differences, right? Because again, and you're not only obviously experiencing, different languages and different people from different cultures, but also when international students are there. And you come from this small town in Polokwane where pretty much everyone spoke Pedi, you had Tsonga and Venda, but it was really like an enclosed community. And when you get there, you have to then start interacting with people from different walks of life. Many of them look like you, but they don't sound like you, and they don't also come from the same context as you. And that becomes a little bit daunting because you're uncomfortable and you have to adapt and you have to change. And you're less worried about school, but you're more worried about how you're fitting in socially and how you're fitting in with, the guys who are at UCT who come from St. John's, and and now when they ask you where you come from, yours doesn't start with Saint, but no, Northern Academy. Like, huh? Where's that? Where's that? You feel like you come from Timbuktu, and you have to navigate a lot of these complexities around identity and around how do you fit in. And sure, you ended up obviously finding a few people who've had, similar journey to you from back home. But again, because of my curiosity, and I really pursue it, I really pursue it strongly. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone and find myself in a place where, a few of my closest friends are also from the Eastern Cape that I knew I would have not been able to be mates with if I just stayed in Polokwane and studied in Wits or UP, So that was very important to me. And I got to learn a lot about myself, a lot about how I interact with the world, and also realize and find out that actually put me in a different context anywhere else. I'll find my place and I'll find my identity in that environment because I'm very good at consuming my environment and then being able to sit in it and become a particular person as a result.
Like, whilst you're sharing this journey for me, we actually have never chatted about the UCT piece. We just made corporate and
exactly
went, right?
Yeah.
But like from our point of view, like you don't seem like you would have struggled. Well, you don't seem like you struggled in finding yourself and becoming the person you need to be in order to, like, I don't want to use the word fit in, but to be able to perform in that environment. Everything around you is adverse, but like you need to perform at the end of the day because what you're there for is what you're there for. Like what I want to ask just on the UCT part, like how much of your own self did you have to let go in order to survive?
A lot. There was this phrase that they coined, and I heard it for the first time there, and I just never understood it. You need literacy now is learning and unlearning, and then relearning. And initially, it just didn't make sense to me because I have a strong sense of identity. In terms of and I know you do as well. In terms of exactly. Exactly. In terms of who I am, like I know who I am, I know where I come from.
That's it.
And that's and that I'm very comfortable with. So now imagine they're like, actually, that strong sense of identity just
turn it down a bit.
tweak this, turn this down a bit, change this and do that. And so naturally, I battled with that a lot, right? And what I quickly realized, though, is that being able to adapt to an environment doesn't mean you're changing the core of who you are, but you're merely expanding who you are. And so what I mean by that is you're not necessarily becoming a different person, but to the core, you're really evolving as a person, and you are adding to who you are. And what I mean, and I think, a different layer to that is really having come into an environment like UCT, and apart from like say different cultures and different races and different ethnicities, you also then obviously had international students in there and all of that. And as I was making mates with these different people from these different walks of life, I quickly realized that they are going through the same thing as I am.
Yeah.
Because they are also in a space where they've come from where they've come from, and they are also trying to study and learn the environment and fit in and find themselves in this complex environment, right? Apart from school and apart from lectures and different things, but you're predominantly doing a lot of that work in social settings. And once I quickly realized that, I then let my guard down a little bit, right? And I approached different people from different walks of life as myself, and presenting myself as I am and saying, listen, this is who I am to the core and this is my identity, and them also presenting themselves in that way. And we're able to essentially establish a place of a commonality and a place where we can connect, because I think a truth that I've quickly realized and that I've taken with me, even coming into a corporate setting, and I'll probably take with me going in different walks of life, is we have a lot more in common than we have in terms of differences, right? We all have we all want a sense of belonging. We all have a sense of curiosity when it comes to different people, especially in an intellectual setting. We all have fears. We all have hopes and dreams. We all want connection. We all want to be understood as human beings and accepted as such. And the minute you quickly understand those pieces as fundamental pieces with regards to who you're connecting with and who you're mates with and who's your classmate and whose party you're going to at like 1 a.m. in the morning, and then you're buck drunk, you quickly realize that as a result of those fundamental pieces, you're a lot more similar than you are different. And that allowed me then to also take that into a corporate setting, right, as well. And what helped is like an environment that I'm working in now at Investec. It's very similar to what you would find in UCT. Very, very. It's what's the word? It's very global, right? You have different citizens from different walks of life coming in, and in pursuit of a goal of building that kind of a business. And as a result of having that commonality, you're able to rely on those fundamental principles in terms of how you connect with people.
100%. I like how you took that experience and the lessons that you learned and who you became to be in your tertiary years, and how you kind of linked it to your world today. And before I get to what I'm trying to get to, over the past about 4 or 5 months, I've been involved in a program where that grade 11 up to first or second year work shadow
Navigate
program, 100%. I've been touching base. Well, I've been part of the program purely from a shadowing and mentoring point of view with law students. Others law students, others still scholars. And every time, like, so my method is I'll take them from that big room and then we'll go sit
Yeah.
and have a conversation before we go upstairs, because everyone is so excited to go see what's going on upstairs.
Yeah.
But I just always try to make sure I speak to them before they get up there, because when they get up there, that's where the chaos is, right?
Yeah,
You're going to
100%.
get consumed.
And it's busy.
You know, and like very interesting questions that they pose. But in summarizing my lesson to them, I said, guys, everyone's journey, including mine, and every one of you is different. You gotta learn and you gotta adapt to the world of today.
Yeah.
And in you wanting to come to work at big institutions, whether it be an Investec or whoever perhaps who you choose you want to work for, you have to own who you are and your journey, and understand that it'll never be the same as everyone. And you got to take that confidence into these spaces and become you, because that's who we buy into as individuals or perhaps as an entity, right? I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone, but it is what it is. So by the time you arrive here, very interesting question was, how do I stay in touch, and how do I make sure that by the time that I finish, I can contact someone here? I'm like, you're actually solving your own problem here. Stay in touch.
Stay in touch.
Have a
You're
conversation.
Right. Yeah.
You're right. And by the time, let someone know how you're progressing at school. Ask them stuff. That's how you stay in touch. It doesn't have to be formal.
And it doesn't have to be this grand idea or like this. You don't have to have this massive business plan all laid out. No.
100%. Like, so it's really interesting in you narrating your journey into your world today. Now let's transition from tertiary UCT into article clerk, right?
Yeah.
How is that? Like, was it 2 years,
3 years in total.
3 years?
Yeah, so the program is 3 years. However, I did 2 years of 2 years of rotating around, and in my third year,
in one business.
Yeah, and then I stayed in one business, really, pretty much.
How was that?
Can I be honest with you? Weirdly enough, I actually didn't know investing about investing, even when I got to uni.
UCT.
Yeah, even when I got to UCT uni, I think I only knew about investing in my third year. But before that, like, I knew 4 banks. and I think if I think about it, I was not target market. So I mean, so it makes sense. So I don't think investing walks around in like Polokwane looking for clients, right? But I don't even know how many clients we have in Polokwane at the moment. So I didn't know about it. And ABSA, I had an account with ABSA, and then I got to uni and I was like, listen, you know what? I'm a big boy now. I'm gonna have an account with Standard Bank as well. And then I remember my mom introduced me to Netbank. I was like, Netbank looked a little bit boring, but it's fine. Let me see what I can do there. And I think and then Capitec, I was like, I can't. But I promise I do have a Capitec account now. Yeah. So I didn't know anything about investing. So and I remember that journey, how that sort of played out was so I obviously needed funding, right, to go to uni. And in my first year, and I remember in my first year, we had just come out of so my school was just acquired by, and I know it's such a weird story.
Sure.
My school had just been acquired because it was technically a private school, but the experience was not private school, right? So it was an independently owned school, right, in Polokwane called Northern Academy. So Northern Academy was then acquired by Curo when we were in grade 11, right? So when we were in grade 11, Curo acquired the school, and so essentially they were changing it to Curo Northern Academy. Cool. And so obviously Curo has an affiliation with your Capitec and all these other businesses. And so what then happened in grade 12 was that our final results came out, and then obviously top 10 and all those kind of things. And so they then, Curo and Capitec were then obviously offering us scholarships to go and study accounting so that we could work in Capitec, right? Awesome opportunity. And I remember I spoke to, my aunt and my gran and my mom about it, and they were excited. They were like, listen, well, I mean, that means we're sorted funding wise. However, the caveat there was, and I think it might have changed now, the caveat there was they didn't want you to go do... So they didn't want you to do your honors because they wanted you, after your degree, to come and be an accountant, I think, for the business, right? And that didn't make sense for us. But obviously now you're in a desperate situation because, I mean, someone is giving you funding, you need money, but now they're taking you on a different journey to what you wanted to go on. And so that was a little bit difficult. What we then did was listen, it's fine. What we will do, we'll just pursue the audit firms. And I remember that time it was KPMG. We pursued KPMG for funding. And KPMG said, okay, cool, no, it's okay. Then they funded my first year. And I didn't take the Curo Capitec scholarship. And then when KPMG funded the first year, I was like, cool, because the KPMG one obviously is a bursary and the terms are, throughout uni, they'll pay for you, and then you end up essentially working for them, right? You have to do your articles with them. So that was the gig. However, I remember when I got to first year, I then read and heard about this thing called the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation. Yeah, I was like, well, I mean, that's interesting, right? And for them, obviously, the proposition there was that it was a scholarship as opposed to a bursary. And so obviously found out what the differences were and what it actually means. And I chatted with a handful of
Do you want to tell the viewers what the difference is before you carry on with that question?
Oh, yeah, sure. So the beautiful thing about the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation is it was started by Alan Gray, naturally, who built the Alan Gray investment firm. And they basically fund students, and I think the only student that they have is for medicine, but they fund students throughout their university, give them a stipend as well, and then pay for their tuitions as well as raise fees, and really they're centered around entrepreneurship, right? And that's where them and I also connected. So I've always been in love with businesses, building businesses and all those kind of things. And so what you typically have to do is write an essay to them in order to apply. You write an essay to them about a business idea that you have, and then they take you through a handful of rounds where you're speaking about that business, and you give them your journey, and as a result, you end up becoming what they call a candidate fellow. And then being a candidate fellow, they then on a yearly basis take you to like these sessions where you get to go through ideation of your different ideas. And, it becomes like a community, right, of people. And I met actually one of my close friends. I met him there as well. And so the gig is either you can then pursue that particular business that you'll be building throughout the school years, and they will potentially fund it through their investment firm, or you can then pursue like a corporate career, and you then end up becoming a candidate. You end up becoming a fellow, right?
That's good.
So, and you had to like maintain, marks at a particular threshold and all those kind of things, which you should expect. So once I found out about them, I applied for the thing, and then I gave them like a business idea that I had back in uni, back in high school, actually, sorry. Because I applied in my first year, and as a result, got in, thankfully, and then, started getting to that environment. And only through that, environment, because I was also meeting different people, and different people would always expose you to other opportunities that you would have never heard of. Only in that environment did they start speaking about investech and banking and consulting. And what you quickly realize is that, like, you have CAs who pursue audit firms and thingy, and then you have CAs who pursue consulting, and then you have CAs who pursue banking. And for the most part, it speaks to really your interests. So it's, parking, your trajectory with regards to what you want to pursue. But for the most part, if your interest lies in transacting, deal making, and backing entrepreneurs, you typically be better suited going into a consulting firm or a banking firm and then becoming a transactor there, as opposed to like an audit firm, for example, right?
Is this your link to Investec now?
So now this is my link to Investec. And so as I was obviously, sharing my journey in terms of what my interests and my passions are, a lot of people directed me towards Investec. And long story short, reaching out to Investec and obviously applying for their TA program, you had to then go to this thing called what do we call it? I think it'll probably come to me, where a lot of the people who essentially applied for the program come to Santon and then get given like a business case, or specifically to banking that they need to solve for. They're in teams and all those kind of things. I think it was 500 of us, but then for our year, then I think about 20 something people essentially cracked the nut to become CA trainees at Investec. And so man, and I think only then I was like, and my bet, right, was listen, I don't know Investec. People in my family don't really know Investec because again, ABSA and then Standard Bank, and then when you're big boy, then you have another card from Standard Bank. So so I didn't really know much about it. But what I did know though is because I wanted to use whatever exposure I do have to better equip myself to becoming a business person, even if I don't become an entrepreneur, but becoming an entrepreneur as well, being in a space where I can have autonomy, being in a space where I can express my ideas and I can work on building and growing businesses. That's really where my passion lies. And I knew that, like, for example, firms like Investec, where at the time it was obviously founder run, or firms like PSG, Jan Muton, who has always been a very inspirational entrepreneur for me personally, or even Alan Gray, for example, when he was still running the firm, or you have Pepco, Christa Visa there, obviously who's built that business. So I've always wanted to be in a state where I'm a protege, or not even a protege, but like through osmosis, I'm working in a large corporate, but I'm working with people who still have those principles of entrepreneurship, who are building these businesses. And so that's why Investec was also a no-brainer. So obviously managed to move from KPMG into Alan Gray, and then from Alan Gray into doing my articles with Investec. And that's really what defined day one of coming into Investec.
And then tell me, if you remember your story at UCT, letting go of a lot in order to survive, in order to be able to perform, was there any difference in going into corporate? Was that experience the same? And I mean, now you're in a building with thousands of people, and you're in a totally different culture, and now it's like the real world, for lack of a better term.
100%.
You're no longer doing case studies now. This is the business. And again, number one, you have to perform because you're part of a program so that you can get retained and get job security. A lot of dynamics that are unique and you have to navigate. Like, was there any difficulty adjusting, or was the UCT experience so good and like so equipping that you just slotted in?
Interesting enough, I think what the UCT experience it gave me a base, and which I think is super valuable. It gave me a good base when it comes to engaging and connecting with people from different walks of life. However, what you quickly realize then is it gives you a base with regards to how you connect with people of a similar age, people who have similar interests, people who are pursuing similar things. And for the most part, you're likely going to find, an individual wanting to pursue a corporate career, or wanting to be a phenomenal, let's say, entrepreneur or whatever in UCT that you will connect with. However, when you get into a corporate space, you then need to factor in age and experience, and the fact that not everyone is a monolith. I don't know how to say it, but like the complexity that came with coming into Investec is obviously you had your cohort of people that you came with from UCT, and it sort of gave you a comfort because you study with these people. You guys experienced similar things, feet must fall during those periods. So you guys essentially came to age at a similar time. However, when you get into corporate, you then start, meeting people who actually came into age in the early 90s as well, right? And then you have people who worked in other organizations who have had their own experiences, be it challenges or triumphs. And then you have, especially with Investec, it's a global organization, some people coming from the UK, some people want to pursue UK opportunities. So then you started realizing a little bit of those additional layers of complexity. And again, even in this particular setting, I think what I knew was going to be very important for me was, mentorship and coaching. And mentorship and coaching, I deemed or I considered to be more powerful when it comes from someone who speaks like you, looks like you.
Yeah.
Because they would have likely had the same experiences as you. And I didn't know where I was going to get it.
Yeah.
And naturally, the first place to start as a first-year trainee is that you're going to look to someone who's in second year, third year, who's been a little bit seasoned, who's been cooked a little bit by the system, right? Who's a little bit, who's boiled a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? And fortunately enough, even when I bumped into a few of these guys, and I remember actually even for my first interview at Investec, weirdly enough, I came. So they flew us from UCT to Joburg for, I think, our second or third round of interviews, and I got there. Obviously, I had never worn a suit in my life, right? And so took my shirt that I wore in high school, white shirt, clean. I mean, I was a rock star, right? And then I had like chinos down there, and then I got some these big you know what I'm talking about, these big Boomba shoes, black shoes in there. You're walking, you have your belt, and you're good. You're ready, right? And then I see these oaks that I study with, they have like a full suit on, and then like they're just looking 10 times fresher than how I see them on campus. I'm okay, cheapers. And then some of them, sure, I mean, their parents and them work in corporate and all of that. And I mean, obviously my parents had a different journey, right? so I remember when I got there, I met this gentleman who, and I'll never forget him. His name was Kabelo Mabaso. And Kabelo, him and I started having a conversation, and we're just chatting about, my journey here, and he had studied at Verts and all of that. And him and I related on so much from the get-go. And I remember he then looked at me as he was talking to me. He's like, but where's your tie? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean, where's my tie? I don't have a tie. And he's like, well, how do you not have a tie when you come into an interview like this, and everyone else has a tie? And I'm like, I mean, it's, no one said that we should get ties. Long story short, he started taking off his tie at work, puts the tie on me, and then he actually helps me, tie it properly. And he's like, don't ever come to a setting like this looking like shit. Yeah. And he literally lets me go. Yeah. And I go in, and then obviously, I tell them my story, and I share my journey and everything like that. Till today, I still have not given him back the tie. and obviously we've had a relationship post that he's never asked for it back. Yeah. And I remember, and from that moment, and from moments like that I knew, number one, I always wanted to constantly, be in touch with those kind of people who have had a similar journey. And because I connect with them a lot, and whatever I share with regards to, adversity or difficulties that I'm having in terms of navigating the space, I know they've 9 times out of 10 experienced those kind of things, and they'll quickly tell me and be very honest with me in terms of what not to do. What not to do is, assume that everyone hates you. What not to do is to assume that, there is, this is purely because of, racism, or what not to do is because of your background and someone else is judging you. That's what not to do. And that's very hard to hear, right? Because for the most part, a lot of people who come from where I come from where you come from. When we get into this exactly. When we get in these kind of spaces, victimhood and victim mentality, and everyone hates me and everyone is against me, comes into play and we use it as a crutch. But unfortunately, that's not going to cut it here. And you need to be in a space where, cool, this person was mean to you. Cool, this person dismissed you. Cool, this person didn't think or feel like you pronounced something properly. Or this person feels like, no, you needed to actually wordsmith a particular sentence and you're not actually saying it properly. But the truth of the matter is that, you are closer. You grew up closer. You were raised closer. Your friends and family and everyone else around you was closer. So naturally, when you get into a space where you're speaking English 100% of the time and you need to communicate in that particular language effectively, you're going to run into things that you need to learn, and you're gonna have to sit back and actually understand that there's a few things that you need to unlearn and relearn, and that was a principle that I learned in UCT as well. And so, taking it back, I suppose, a few things that really helped me out was, connecting with these people who had a similar background and a similar position as me when it comes to upbringing, because they were very honest with me, and I'm very thankful of that. And what they always told me to do, and what they always asked me to do, is to take all the principles that they've shared with me and shared with everyone else in a similar way to what you're doing now with the students in Navigate. And that continued for a very long time. And even when I was not really intentionally pursuing these kind of connections and these kind of conversations, they ended up coming to me because I also showed up to these spaces being as authentic as possible and saying, I don't know what I don't know. And if I don't know something, please teach me. Sure, I may have been clever and smart and very successful back where I come from in the context that I was in. However, now I'm in a very different context and I need to become and evolve into becoming a different person. And that was very helpful in an environment like Investec at the moment.
That's lovely. Thanks for sharing that, bro.
Yeah.
You're still young. I mean, it could be very premature to ask. Well, I've got the opportunity with you to ask, what's for the future? Like, you went into a transacting role. You did all of it there. You're now into strategy, and naturally, as life goes, you're gonna progress. Like, how's it looking? Where you at? Like, what's the conversation you're having with yourself with regard to the future? You're the first case that I can actually ask this question.
Yeah.
All the other guys are like,
established.
When I've got a family now, man, dude, like, like this is where I am and I'm not going anywhere. You're the first guy that I can actually ask that stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually quite nice. To be honest with you, Ubuntu, and you remember even when we were talking about this particular role as well, I didn't know that I was going to be in a role like this.
How cool is this, bro?
Like, honestly, like, I remember, I genuinely didn't know. I enjoy transacting, and I absolutely loved it. I loved walking the floor of clients, flipping, fighting with clients over the phone, agreeing to terms, listening to this, and then going back into credit and the fighting with credit there. But it was absolutely fun because, again, it came back to what gives me energy. And I remember a mentor of mine spoke to that, and he was like, what you always need to pursue is something that gives you energy, like something that fires you up. When you wake up in the morning, you don't feel like you're maintaining or you just another day, another dollar.
You're actually
going to grab something, and you're trying to consistently compound, right? And I truly believe that. I truly believe that on a daily basis, you need to have this mindset that, like, actually, you know what? I'm adding a block to where I'm trying to go and what I'm trying to do. And fundamentally for me, I was convinced in uni that, I'd flip by this time around, I would have built a business, I would have been running a business, I would have been looking to buy other businesses and then growing those kind of businesses, right? But what I quickly then realized is, for example, something that I battled with in high school is that I thought I'm the type of guy or an entrepreneur. And I remember I've always told you that, right?
I know.
That I confessed to myself that, like, I thought I'm the type of guy to want to start businesses and whatnot. And then I quickly realized, no, I don't. I don't want to start a business.
Because it's hard.
Because it's hard.
And you're better at something else.
I'm better at something else. I'm better at looking at a business that makes X and then saying, cool, we need this business to make Y. how do we get this business that's making X to Y? Claro. That's what excites me. That's what excites me. What excites me is then looking at that business, looking at its client base, pricing, a market, and then looking at processes, systems, strategies, people, all those kind of things, and then seeing that, okay, cool, how can we take this business from here to here, right? And when I got into transacting, I realized that I was doing a lot of that, right, with a lot of these businesses that we were obviously, funding and then providing structured solutions for.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a lot of these conversations with Itu, but and Itu Million was obviously the head of our private bank, and I was just having these conversations in like randomly, right, and not even in pursuit of anything, because him and I always argued about it, right?
Jesus, you guys went on at each other.
Like we always fought till today. We always fighting. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. And at the time, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I can't tell him that I don't know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Right? And weirdly enough, like for him, you put a guy like that who has built businesses in the context of Investec. You put him in a situation where you like build a tobacco business. He will sit there and actually build it for you. Yeah. But fundamentally, he starts with people as his basis.
Oh, I love
because
it.
he builds people. As he builds people, he builds these businesses, right? Yeah. And that's been like one of the best things about him, one of the best qualities that I've seen so far. And the truth of the matter is that, in terms of answering your question, to be honest with you, if you asked me that in Varsity, I would have said, listen, I would be this entrepreneur buying and building businesses. But now, as I've been in a transactor role, I thought, listen, you know what? Over time, I would be, I'd look to leading a team of transactors and then becoming head of a division and then growing in that way. And now, I'm now in a different context, in a different business. And at this point, I genuinely do not know. I genuinely do not know because so much is changing so fast, right? And there's so many moving parts with regards to our business, with regards to the market in general. You have other businesses like your Capitec essentially pursuing different markets now. You have your Discovery really building traction, and then you have international competitors as well coming into an environment like South Africa. Your Revolut. So it's a very exciting time to be in banking at the moment. And I've then come to realize that like actually what I need to do and what I am doing right now is focusing on what I'm doing and trying to do it as best as I can and doing it well. So within strategy now, I'm doing exactly what we were discussing now, where you come into a business that we're currently looking after, and then you look at that business, how it works, market share, clientele, operations, systems, people. You look at that, and then you sit there and you work through a North Star picture with a guy like Itu Million, who's built so many of these businesses within Investec. And then he and you debate and fight and then discuss and pursue this and think about this and bring all of that into a picture around what you want or what you would like to build with this particular business called the private bank. And then literally all you then doing now is trying to take it from where it is at the moment to where it should be. You're not trying to maintain the business. You're not trying to, just grow incrementally. You're trying to think of ways that you can substantially shift that particular business and transform it. And that's what's exciting me at the moment. What this may potentially lead to, I don't know. But I'll tell you for free, where I do want to be and where I'll always want to be is in a space and a position where I feel like I'm building a business.
Okay. No, that's cool, man. Thanks for sharing that. And perhaps in shifting that question a little bit, is there, I know you do this anyway, not formally, you help anyone who comes up to you with business solutions. Like I'm a beneficiary of that in my world, right? I wanna find out there's so many good young, not necessarily young, there's so many good business people who just don't have access to the resources that we have. What's helped me a lot is the resources that businesses are paying so much for
Yeah.
I can find in a building with the tap of a shoulder.
Yeah.
And that's a massive privilege for me, of which I cherish. Like, there is a place in corporate for entrepreneurs where you can just go find solutions internally. Now, there are some people, corporate will never be able to take 100% of everyone who's unemployed, which means that you will have entrepreneurs who do want these solutions, who just don't have the means, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, will never have the access to go and tap onto high performing culture, because you're not going to find them.
Yeah.
You're not going to find them. And
Yeah.
if there's no conduit between those entrepreneurs and people like you, then they're never going to get genuine help, right? Is there an opportunity one day in your world where you can like host a 10 module masterclass on just those principles?
Yeah.
And it's upon the entrepreneur or the person who wants to build whatever they want to build. Doesn't have to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like, would you be interested or looking at something like that when you've got the time? Like, I really like this. It's very close to my heart because I really know how hard and how expensive it is to find people who can do what you do. Yeah.
And you know what? Like, for some time, I have been thinking about that. For some time, and you remember even when you and I were having our discussions, and then I think obviously we sat with other entrepreneurs as well, and it was so concerning and fast. It was so concerning, but also so hopeful at the same time. Like, one felt hopeful post that a lot of entrepreneurs really have such a and you remember we've spoken about it, where like they have such a brilliant idea here. You have few ones that have a brilliant idea, and then they have themselves as the execution of that particular idea. However, when it comes to understanding their market, who they're selling to, execution in terms of driving that particular product into that market, and then pricing for it well, and then understanding their clients well, understanding lifetime value of clients, all those kind of things that sure can be very academic. However, if you fundamentally understand them, and you have this like osmosis, or like this place where you're just able to absorb them, you are better equipped to be able to execute when it comes to these particular things. And I remember having sat down with a handful of entrepreneurs here and there. I then quickly realized that, listen, what I'm talking about for the most part, that I'm and I'll keep pursuing and I keep learning, is not something new and fresh to me, but I'm realizing is very helpful to so many entrepreneurs, and it's something that I'm seriously considering as well. And I think at the moment I'm just trying to figure out how the structure looks like in terms of time for work, and like and obviously time for relationships and like and family and everything else. But I'm realizing that I need to start seriously thinking about it, and obviously I'm going to touch base with you with regards to where the pain points are, because we know the overall problem statement.
Yeah.
But in terms of how do you then package something like that in a way that is succinct, in a way that is consumable, and in a way that someone can constantly reference it and come back to it. I think I'm seriously considering it and thinking about it. And I think I'm completely open to, ideas in terms of how to go about it.
So the reason why I ask is because this platform that I'm trying to build here is to try to provide those solutions, because again, I speak about this conduit. It's not there, man. It's not there. And a lot of people falling off the side, and I feel like within our circle, for lack of a better term, we can provide these. Yeah, it is extremely rough.
Yeah.
Our roles are extremely taxing and they take a lot of our time.
Yeah.
But I feel like if it's close to your heart and it's online and you can just shoot 5 or 6 episodes for the year, and that can be your module, and you look at it again in 3 years' time, then it's 45 minutes of your month.
Yeah.
You can do it for over 12 months. The next day you've got something, and you if people want to consume it, they consume it. If they don't, then they don't. But at least
it'll be out there.
Right? Or we've done a little bit of something. So that's why I'm asking a lot of entrepreneurs, or perhaps entrepreneurial minded people who do come on this platform, What do you think of something like that? Because I think
I would love that.
we need to look at something like that, man. We need to.
Yeah.
But anyway, in closing, do you have anything that you'd like to ask me?
I have so much to ask you.
How many? We've got 2 minutes. That's fine. I'll try. Yeah.
What's your North Star when it comes to entrepreneurship and business?
I want you to explain North Star to people because I need to make sure that we don't speak in our own terminology.
Yeah. What are you pursuing? What is your ideal place that you'd want to get to with the journey that you're on?
So for me, I'm actually a very like corporate social type of entrepreneur. I build these things to work for me, and at the end of the day, what works for me benefits people where I come from. You know the industries I'm in. Yeah. I'm not going to repeat them on air, but I sit at the end of the evening, the end of the day, and I get in touch with my local rugby club in the Eastern Cape. I get in touch with my sisters in community work, and I ask them like, what's going on this weekend? Is there anything that I can help with? And for me, I was helped by an entrepreneur that you know of, Unolwazi,
very well.
Like she helped me on my first transaction. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like for free, she just assisted me. With, like she had nothing, absolutely nothing to gain, and she's never asked for a payback. And like for me, the lesson that I took from her was pass it on to the next person. So a lot of the things I built for, number one, to benefit my family. So I need to make sure that my family's in a safe environment, and then after that, I take the proceeds and a lot of it back to the community. I'll just go travel and I'll go watch them, and I'll be there on a random Wednesday night in the township to check the guys practice, and I'll help my sister build a good corporate structure so that she can raise money for an NPO, and then I'll plow some cash into that. I'll get 10 or 15 entrepreneurs to give 500 rand each, and we give her 6,000 rand a month. So like that's my like feel good story. But what I enjoy out of entrepreneurship is to, from not having anything to building and not building strategy, solutions. And when I get that, like that is where I play. Like there are smarter people who can like solution for my businesses better than me, which is why I get in touch with people like you and so many other professionals. I'm like nothing into something. Okay, now it's overwhelming me. I don't have the skill. Get 2 or 3 people in, make it work, benefit the community. That's my truth, bro. To be honest.
That's powerful.
Thanks for coming. The bosses are up looking at me like they want to kill me. But look, with regard to your story about assisting entrepreneurs and making sure that they can get these solutions, strategy and solutions. Let's look at it over the long term, bro. Yeah. Sleep on it. There's absolutely no rush. But if there's something
I'm
there,
interested.
There's something there.
Genuinely. Very interested.
Thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, brother, for having me. Absolutely loved our conversation.